Okay, a lot of parents wonder, how do we motivate our kids to have ideal behavior? And when it comes to discipline, you know, what's the right way to discipline? Well, Dr. Keith Cantor is back to answer some questions that viewers emailed in. Hey, welcome back.
Hey, thanks. So good to be here.
And it's always a pleasure to have you here. So let's get down to the nitty gritty, because every parent wants a child to have optimal behavior.
We take them out to be respectful.
Right. Whether they're in front of people or at home. You want to be able to take your kids out to dinner, know that they're going to behave and be well-mannered, and be respectful of others and to their parents. So I have to tell you, my kids are very respectful. I got really lucky. I do, but I run a really
tight ship.
I run a really tight ship, and I have very firm boundaries.
And did you start early?
Yeah.
Okay, because one of the things that's really important is it's how early you start with kids.
Yeah.
If you start really building good habits early with kids, the likelihood that they're going to keep them is higher. Okay, because as kids get older, they want to be more independent, and as they get more independent, they want to kind of go against things. So early on, if you really are into manners and like that, that's a good thing to start to do early. But where it gets complicated is if you didn't do that, and then you have to go back and do it again later, and then it's kind of reteaching things.
I found that when I have a lot of friends who are parents, single and otherwise, if they're pushovers, if they don't keep their boundaries firm, then the kids walk all over them, and then the kids are bouncing off the walls. I mean, like behaviorally speaking.
Yeah.
But let's get to the first question. All right. How do we get our kids to be more responsible?
All right. Well, the first thing you got to do is you have to actually figure out what are they capable of doing. Okay,
it's got to be age appropriate.
We call it functional capacity. If you start asking kids to do things that they are unable to do developmentally, they're going to fail. So the first thing is you have to say, okay, what are they capable of doing? Can they make a bed? Can they do their homework? Can they do these things? If they can do those things, then the parent responsibility is to really help the child see that they can actually do it and hold them accountable. So when parents do homework for kids that the kids can do, or if the parents make the kids beds when the beds can be made, then what you're doing is you're actually instilling some doubt in your child. Can I really do it? Can I not do it? So when parents really push kids to do things that they can actually do, two things happen. Kids get self-esteem, and they feel better, and then they don't really need their parents quite as much, which is kind of bittersweet for parents, because a lot of times parents want to be needed. But what you start to see is that kids take over these tasks and you don't have as much of a battle. But it has to be based on what kids can actually do or not do.
I also think it's really important, which I teach my children at a certain age, okay, if you can make a mess, you can clean up your mess and not be their maid. They have to teach them to want to be clean themselves.
And as long as they can do it. So again, it's the idea of really making sure that when your child is ready to do something, even potty train.
But kids like to help. Early on they beg to help with dishes or whatever, and they're too young. But get a box. Here's a little toddler, 2-year-old, help put the blocks back in the box. Teach them young.
Yeah, no, and that's very, very important. You start factor in some more kids to that, it's not so easy, because then you get some competition. But you're right, starting early, parents really encouraging kids to do things that they can do, reinforcing, and that's very important too, that it's really important that you really, really reinforce good behavior. So when kids do things that are really good, say, hey, you know what, that's great. But instead of I'm proud of you, that must feel really good to you.
You know what? That's something I got to do better, because I'm good at reinforcing good grades and everything else. But if the girls are feeding the dog or making their bed, I just expect it. That's part of we're family, right? They're a family member, and so that's their job. That's what they're bringing to the table. So I expect it. I never go, oh, good job, but I probably should do that.
Well,
good advice.
That must feel good to you, that they could take care of something else. So the idea is you want to help them feel good inside about what they're doing on the inside.
I don't know why I didn't think about it like that. I've always just did it with academia. And being kind and loving and compassionate.
That's important too.
Question 2.
All right, what do we got?
What do you mean by functional abilities?
Okay, well, there's mental age, like child's age. There's chronological age. Chronological age is 2, 3, 4. Mental age is kind of what mentally they're able to. Functional age I use as what is a child capable of doing at this particular stage in their development. And each stage of development, we have like tasks that kids can do. So you look at like what can a 7-year-old actually do, an 8-year-old. So that's functional capacity. So you want to base what your expectations are on what they can do.
And have realistic goals.
And realistic, because
but don't enable them either.
Okay, well that's the important thing you just said too. If you enable them, two things happen. One, they become dependent on you, and then they resent you.
And they don't feel good about themselves.
Yeah, and that's why they resent you.
Right, they'll take it on you, and they feel lame about themselves. You want to build them up and make them feel capable.
But they want to admit that they're lame. It's your fault.
Yeah, that's why
fault.
parents are going to be very careful
fault.
because everything will be your fault.
It's always your fault.
Well, everything's my fault. Everything
You're
here.
a mom.
Everything.
It's
I know.
always mom's fault. You know.
Okay.
It's always mom's fault.
Last question. At what age should my kid be able to play sports without getting too competitive?
This is so good. Look, you got to remember that, introducing sports to kids is really, really important. If you introduce competitive sports too early to kids, you're going to have a problem. So recreational sports are always the way to go. Give kids choices on what they want to play. When kids get into the ages of about 7 to 10, this is where, oh my gosh, competition fairness becomes really important. If you load on too many competitive sports right now at that particular time, greater likelihood they're going to burn out.
That
Really.
also
So
happened
you
to my daughter who
you
was
gotta be careful.
varsity, everything.
Yeah.
From field hockey, lacrosse, you name it. And she could have gone on through
Right.
college and
And
she just burnt out.
Burned out.
She
See,
burned out.
so you get you get some of the examples, the Tiger Woods, who start real early and move up. But for most kids, if they get pushed too fast, get into competition too early, you know what? By high school, by college, they don't want to do it.
And then you have guys like John Lynch upstairs,
yeah.
the CEO of this whole place.
Yeah.
His son. Hello, look at that.
Well, yeah, and there are cases where
Yeah.
that's important too. But let your kids really get into it, enjoy it first, then the competition comes. Because when they're about 8 to 10, look, they feel like they lose at everything.
I'm sure,
Okay, so they
obviously,
gotta make
John
them win.
Lynch did it right. However,
However he did it,
his
he did
son
it
is
right.
amazing and
that's
very
good stuff.
successful. Well, thank you so much.
Well,
I
of
can't
course.
wait for next Friday for more parenting
stuff.
tips.
Good stuff.
Please email us your questions, send them in, because Dr. Keith Canner would love to answer them.
It's good stuff.
Thank you.